Hey guys, glad to be here with you today. I hope you're as excited to watch this video as I am about making it for you. You know, people always ask me what it is that I do that allows me to get more offers on properties accepted than my competition. And so I thought about it for a few minutes, and after a few seconds I realized that what I do differently is that I make at least 3 times as many offers as my competition does. I know it sounds cliche, or maybe it sounds kind of stupid, but you know, I'm really telling you the truth. What I mean by that is I don't have to produce 3 times as many leads, but what I do is give every prospective seller that comes to me looking for me to buy their property, I give them at least 3 offers. I give them multiple options and at least 3 ways that I would be willing to buy their property. And so in fact, the deal that I'm going to show you today is a true example of actually a real deal that I did just last week. I'm going to show you the offers that I made on the deal, and then I'm going to tell you which offer they decided to go with. So it was a successful deal, and I'm kind of proud of it. It's exciting, but these are the kinds of offers, these are the kinds of deals that we're making on a regular basis. And so I want to kind of show you what we're doing different so that you can do it too. So the first fact is I want you to always make 3 offers, and the 3 different offers are going to be set up a little bit differently each. The first offer I make is usually an all-cash offer with no contingencies. I usually say, hey, I'll give you X amount of dollars, all cash, no contingencies, and close in 10 days. And I was doing this even back in the days when I didn't even have 2 nickels to rub together, because I knew if I had a good price on a a good price on a good deal, and it was a cash offer, I could always wholesale that deal to somebody else. So I always want you to be making cash offers, even if you don't personally have the cash to do the transaction. If you make a good enough deal, you'll always have somebody that's willing to step up to the plate and take your contract. But we'll talk more about exit strategies in another session. I'm going to keep this short and kind of buzz through this so you can get the gist of it. So you're going to make an all-cash offer. Secondly, I want you to make an offer with some kind of seller financing, whether that's subject to or a lease option or some kind of a seller carryback on a note. Option 2 should always be some component of seller financing. And then option 3 is usually a shockingly high price with very favorable terms in your favor. So like I always say, I can either pay your price and you can abide by my terms, or I can give you your terms, but I'm going to need to get my price. 2 other options that you can put into your toolbox, if you wish, is if you have a listing agent or if you have a license yourself, you can also offer to list the property for them. But you want to be careful about this because you don't want to compete with your other 3 offers, obviously. And then number 5 is you can also add a hard money component to your offers and say, hey, maybe you don't want to sell it, Mr. Seller. Maybe you just want to borrow some money, get some cash out of it. And if that's the case, and if you want to have that component in your toolbox, I would recommend that you become a member of iBankAngels.com, where you can represent and get a referral fee for every hard money loan that you refer. So let's move on. This is the recent deal. This is the subject property is a 6-plex in Sherman Oaks. Sherman Oaks, for those of you that don't know, is a very highly desirable area in the LA area. It does have apartments, and they stay very full. It does happen to be a rent control area, and what that means is, if you're not familiar with rent control, is it's very unlikely that the tenants are ever going to move. So if you like the rents you're getting, you can be rest assured that you're not going to have a lot of turnover, and probably next to no turnover in a rent-controlled property. But that's also a lesson for another day. The gross rent on this property is just under $100,000 a year. Now, that's assuming that the owner is paying rent for his unit, and the market rent for his unit is about $2,500 a month. So about less than a third of the rent would come from his one larger unit in the 6-plex. So after expenses and everything else, if his unit was rented, we would expect to net about $40,000 a year, and that's after the mortgage payments are made that he has on the property. Current market value is $1.2 million. and he has an existing loan of $530,000. The guy's got a boatload of equity, obviously, so he's got some real options to be made. The seller said, came to me and said, "Hey, I just need cash right away. What can you do for me?" And so I kind of crafted several different options for him, actually. The first option I gave to him was, "Hey, I don't disagree with you about what you think your property's worth. I think your property is worth $1.2 million, and if you needed to make a quick sale, you could probably sell it for about $1.1 million in a quick sale. And I'd be happy to list it for you if you want to go this direction. But what I want you to know, Mr. Seller, is that in today's marketplace, it's likely to take at least 30 days to finalize a contract with a buyer. It's also likely in today's day and age that if they're going to pay close to retail value, they're going to want to come in with a conventional loan, and so that's going to take another 60 days to close. In addition to that, after broker's fees and closing costs, you're probably going to net about $470,000 out of your transaction. So I'd be happy to list the property for you. We can go out and try to find somebody that's going to pay, very close to retail value, kind of a conventional sale. It'll probably take about 90 days to do all of this transaction, and you'll net about $470,000. And at this point, I could see that the seller was a little bit disappointed with a couple things, because I don't think he actually calculated the time it would take to sell, nor the closing costs that are very realistic in today's day and age. So we moved on to option 2. I said, sitting there at the table, I said, number 2, I can give you a hard money loan for about $650. It'll cost 12% interest and 4 points to close. So you're gonna have to have cash at closing to close this loan, or you, but what this will allow you to do is keep the property. It'll still be your property, but we can't do owner-occupied loans. So you're gonna have to find a way to not be living there when we close escrow on this. But the good news is you can cash out about $100,000. You'll still own the property, and we can close in about 10 days. The third option that I made this particular seller was I made him a cash offer with no contingencies. I said, "Look, I'll write you a check for $950. I'll close in 10 days, no contingencies. I'll just want about an hour to look around, inspect this property, check title, and we'll close." That puts about $400,000 in cash in your pocket. You don't have to wait 90 days. The good news about that is you can stay in your apartment. You don't have to move. So we're already not that far apart from what it would, what a traditional sale would look like. And I could tell that the seller was getting a little bit more interested at option 3. He really didn't like the 90 days, and I'll tell you what he decided in just a minute. Now on this particular deal, I gave him the fourth option. I offered to pay him full retail price of $1.2 million. I told him I'd take over his existing payments and I would take the deed, and I'd give him $150,000 cash right now, at closing in 10 days, and I would give him a note for $520,000, which would basically make up the difference between the existing mortgage that he had and the difference on the sales price. And I told him that I would pay interest on that mortgage. Or I'm sorry, I would make payments on that mortgage. I did not say interest. The seller would get a note for $530,000. I'd pay him $2,200 a month. That would go towards the note. Although I would have been willing to pay interest on this particular deal, I did not offer that, and therefore the $2,200 is going to be counted towards principal payments. Seller lives in his apartment for $300 a month, basically. His market value on his apartment was $25,000. I'm going to pay him $2,200 for the privilege of using his money, seller financing, to buy the property. So basically, I'm going to give him $150,000 down. I'm going to own a cash flowing property in a high demand marketplace, and it's a marketplace that has a lot of barriers to entry. Not many people sell properties in this marketplace, so it's really exciting to find one that we can get into creatively. It nets about $13,500 a year, or about a 9% return on the $150,000 investment. So what I want to point out, though, is that every option that I made this guy was a good option. If I listed the property, I'd make about a $27,000 commission. If I made him a loan, I'd make about the same as I would as if I was a real estate, listing agent or had it listed. If he accepted my cash offer, I'd probably just wholesale this deal to another investor and probably flip the contract for $50,000, make a quick buck, and move on to the next deal. And with the terms that I gave him, I'd make a nice 9% return on a good property that will more than likely appreciate in value very quickly over the next couple of years as the market rebounds. So, and I would do all of that without needing a bank. So some of the benefits that my seller gets by coming to me is he doesn't need to go anywhere else. I've given him multiple options. I've kind of demonstrated my expertise, so that automatically builds trust with him. If I gave him one option, maybe I just gave him the cash option, it's real easy for them to just say no. But if you give them multiple strategies on how they can benefit by doing business with you, it creates actually a relationship. Automatically creates a relationship, and where you guys are working together to solve a problem. And I think that's really key to getting your offers accepted. So focusing on the seller's needs is always the best advice when you're dealing with, especially when you're not dealing with a listed property. And one of the tips that I've found to be the case is that the seller almost always chooses the last option that you present. So be real careful in the order that you structure the presentation. Consequently, this particular seller chose to go with the last option. He chose the financing. He's going to take the $150,000, or I should say, he took the $150,000 in cash, and we gave him a note. I gave him a no-interest note that's due in 5 years. The $2,200 a month payment $2,200 a month payment that I'm making him not only offsets his rent, but will be reduced from the principal balance as time goes forward. So I get to capture all of the benefits of appreciation, and I get to get no interest financing on about half of the value or half of the cost of this particular property. Sweet deal. Happy to make those kinds of deals every day of the week. Now, before I conclude, I want to give you a couple of tips in making 3 offers. I'm going to recommend you make 3 offers even if the property is listed with a broker. But never leave the 3 offers in writing for the seller to think about unless you're making them through a broker. Unfortunately, a broker is going to make you put them in writing, of course. But if it's not through a broker, I usually do it verbally, or I'll sketch it out on the back of a sheet of paper. But I don't ever present them all of my documents and contracts and let them keep them overnight, simply because I've had people shop me out to other investors with my own contracts. So that I learned that the hard way. Always present your 3 options or 3 offers in person if possible. And if the seller does need time to think about it, put a deadline on it. Tell him that you're going to withdraw these offers if he doesn't make a decision by 5 o'clock tomorrow. And if he says, hey, my attorney needs to look at these documents, always make sure they're going to an attorney, and you always want to, because then you can also send a non-disclosure agreement with those documents. Protects you a little bit, but anytime you put things in writing that are very creative and very unique, you run the risk of them shopping your options out. Always make 3 offers, and you want to do it at face-to-face as often as possible. Next time we get together, we'll discuss exit strategies. And for this time, signing off, it's Matt Skinner. I'm a creative finance expert, and I'm looking forward to helping you do deals the same way.